And if you think back, this has always been a running theme in Stranger Things, radio frequencies. And I think in this final season, radio frequencies are going to play a big role. So big, in fact, that it may decide if characters that we have come to love throughout the years live or tragically perish. What's going on, nerds, and welcome back to the channel. You know, I'm still reeling from what was just an absolute epic teaser trailer for Stranger Things Season 5. And during that trailer, there's one singular notion that stuck out to me the entire time that was a reoccurring theme. Before we dive into what that theme is, if you're new to the channel, I want you to go ahead and consider subscribing to the channel, because as we continue through the marketing for Season 5, this channel will be your source for all things Stranger Things. From long form videos to shorts to epic live streams, I've got you covered right here on the weekly wrap up. One of the reoccurring themes from the epic teaser trailer is the radio frequencies and radio towers. WSQK 94.5 FM is powered by 50,000 watts and has a huge radio tower right in the backyard of the station. This radio tower is called an RRH, or Remote Radiohead RF Radio Tower. I went over what an RRH radio tower does months back in an earlier video, breaking down set photos from Stranger Things Season 5, particularly in this clip. Take a listen. There's a huge tower in the background as well. I'm not sure if that's going to play any kind of role or if it's just for aerial shots that are taking place on set. But taking another glance at it now, maybe it is some kind of radio tower that's going to be utilized here. Because if you look over here on the right hand side, guys, you do see a satellite attached to this tower.
I don't even want a fancy satellite. I don't want any kind of satellite.
Not a satellite, genius! It's a satellite dish!
Maybe the gang is using this tower for long-range communications. And that might make sense whenever it comes to this picture that was shown off by the Duffers, the Remote Radiohead, or RRH. Now I know you might be asking yourselves, what the heck is an RRH? Well, according to everythingrf.com, a remote radiohead, or RRH, or remote radio unit, RRU, is the remote frequency circuitry of a base system enclosed in a small outdoor module. The RRH performs all RF functionality like transmit and receive functions, filtering, and amplification. It also provides analog to digital or digital to analog converters and up and down converters. A remote radiohead, or RRH, can also provide advanced monitoring and control features that allow operators to optimize performance from a remote, centralized location. The site continues, stating that the RRH is usually mounted near the antenna to reduce transmission line losses and is connected to the main digital portion of the base station, or the BBU, with an optical fiber. And looking back at this picture again, it says the top light will be green when the connectors are seated properly. The bottom light will be red whenever there is a problem. Now, according to figure 5.2, it displays the control relay simplified schematic, stating that if there is a loss in communication between the tower and the studio, the next step would be to analyze and assess if the control relay is functioning properly. Now, what the hell does all of this mean? Well, I think this is going to come into play, guys, with perhaps that frequency tower that I showed off in that previous image. This RRH could be attached to the tower, connected to the antenna to help boost the frequency to prevent it from being lost. This could potentially help the crew out quite often whenever they're separated or they have long distances in between each other. This also could be connected to Dustin's Cerebro if he still has it as well. You guys remember Cerebro from back in Season 3, right?
Impressive, right?
Maybe they attached this RRH device onto Dustin's Cerebro to help boost the signal, so whenever they're in long distances, say boosting the signal between the upside down and the real world, there's no loss of communication. And that's one thing that the tower does that seems to be a theme here, amplification that I mentioned. Throughout the entire trailer, one thing that appears to be happening is an amplification or an increase of the decibel levels of the frequency. Is this being done because it is being used as a ploy to, hide in the real world from Vecna as he tries to mind flay them from the upside down? Perhaps the higher the levels are, the more difficult it is for Vecna to hone in on them. Think about it, back in the beginning of the trailer, Steve is shown adjusting the satellite on the top of the van before moving out. Why would he need to do this before moving? And right before he leaves, you can see Mike and Lucas are on a bicycle riding closely behind. Perhaps this signal is being broadcasted from a specific radius to protect them as well, so they ride close behind him to protect themselves from being mind flayed. With the RRH on the tower itself, it also provides advanced monitoring and control features from a remote centralized location, as I mentioned in the video about a year ago. So perhaps the RRH attached to the tower provides, some sort of monitoring of what Vecna's whereabouts may be if they decide to formulate a plan of some sorts. Something that they could do maybe from a remote location, like a safe house or a bunker of sorts. As I mentioned, the boosting of the signal could also be utilized to communicate between the upside down and the real world, something that has always been an impediment whenever the crew is in between dimensions. Previously, they used SOS at the Wheeler's house and Holly's light bright, if you will recall, back in season 4 to communicate, but it would be a lot easier if they were able to just use walkie-talkies to talk to each other like they always do. And if you think back, this has always been a running theme in Stranger Things, radio frequencies, and I think in this final season, radio frequencies are going to play a big role, so big in fact that it may decide if characters that we have come to love throughout the years live or tragically perish. By the way, if you're new here and you're still watching this video and you're locked into this theory, you might want to go ahead and subscribe now to the channel, as I'm going to have more theories come out in the weeks and months ahead as more trailers are released. Now, circling back to the radio dial real quick, another theory that I thought was a good one, and shout out to Jack over at my Discord server, is that the dial could potentially represent more sort of like a level of how close Vecna is to finding them. Think about it. Throughout the trailer, it boosts the decibel level frequency all the way to 100, and the screen goes black, and you hear Vecna say, "Found you." And which, by the way, huge shout out to Jamie Campbell Bower. It looks like he's gonna kill it once again as Vecna. Huge kudos for him. I'm digressing here, but look, bottom line, is that dial a representation of how close he is to them? Has he found a way to hack into the RF towers past the remote radio head? Because if that's their plan and he's able to figure out the RRH, he'll know where they are at that point, and then from there, it's a wrap. You can forget about it. There's so many possibilities on what could be going on with the radio station and the RRH RF tower at WSRQ, but like I said, communication is something that has been a reoccurring theme since day one of this show, and this season appears that it is going to be the key to survival, whether someone lives or dies, and what will undoubtedly be an epic conclusion for Stranger Things. What do you guys think about these theories? Do you think that the tower is meant to scramble frequencies? Or do you think that the amplification is meant as sort of like a foreshadowing of Vecna ultimately hacking into their system and finding out where they are, as he said in the trailer? Or do you have other theories about it? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you guys enjoyed this video, do me a huge solid right now by smashing that like button. And again, if you're new here and you really enjoyed what you saw, consider subscribing to the channel with your bell notification set to all so you know exactly when new content is slapping. The march towards 10,000 subscribers continues on this channel, as I'm now just a little over 1,300 more away from this point. I appreciate the continued support, nerds, and until next time, I'm your host with the most, A to the P, Albert Perkins, and we will see you in the next video. Until then, and as always, over and out.
Subscribe.